Hi everybody. So if you've met me before, don't need to tell you who I am. Otherwise, I'm Pete Hill. I've spent my life studying amphibians and reptiles, and newts was something I grew up with. And we're going to talk all about their identification in ecology tonight. Newts are consistently, without doubt, way ahead of any of the others, snakes, lizards, frogs, toads, in as much as they're the most regularly confused with each other. People constantly confusing. Is it a great crested newt? Is it smooth? All the time. I get it constantly, emails and pictures and stuff. And I can see why it's confusing. But it's not helped by the way it's generally discussed for what are ID features to go on. There's much less confusing ways to do it. And I'm going to drive that message home to you straight away just by looking at this picture immediately. So on the top left, you've got a pair of smooth or common newts, okay, Lysotriton vulgaris. In the terrestrial stage, they're on the ground, they're not in the water. And the skin is looking a bit velvety there, but it's smooth. Okay. Right next to them, you've got a great crested newt male in the aquatic phase. And at the bottom, you've got a great crested newt female in the terrestrial phase. So you're looking at the skin of those two. It's warty, isn't it? It's warty and granular compared to the smooth, but slightly velvety looking skin of the smooth newts on the left. And it looks velvety like that when they're on the land. When they're in the water, it's really, really smooth and slippery. These guys on the right, the great crested, their skin is always this granular texture. Their other common name is warty newt. And the other common name for the common newt is smooth newt. So when you think about it, it's a much easier way to just look at their skin, okay? We'll drive that message home all the way through this. So we've got 3 native species. One of them is highly protected. It's the great crested. We also have 2 introduced species that are well established, and a third that's also proven to be breeding down in England. But in Wales, we've got 1 alien species as well. That's the alpine newt. There's a strong colony in Ceredigion. We've also got colonies in England of these other 2 species. Well, the one that's most concerning is the alpine newt because there's not a single colony yet. There's over 40 colonies in the UK, none of which have been clear of chytridiomycosis, which is a fungal pathogen which is deadly to amphibians. And the alpine newt as a species, beautiful animals, but they seem to be vectors. A vector of a disease is something that doesn't suffer from it, but carries it. So that's not good news. So the key to telling these native species apart is that 2 of them are very, very similar, and one of them's different. So 2 of them are in the same genus, Lysotriton. Small newts, they've got a lot in common with each other. In fact, the 2 species can even hybridize in situations where they're not used to being sympatric, where they're not used to living side by side. If somebody puts a palmate newt in a pond with smooth newts in a couple of hours drive away, they get confused. And I've myself have found hybrids, and they've been found quite regularly up and down the country. Great crested newt is a very different animal. It's in a different genus entirely and cannot interbreed with the others. It's very, very different. It will predate the others when the opportunity arrives, eat them quite easily, but they're very, very, very different. Okay. Here's the 3 natives, all males. Sorry, I'm not being sexist or anything. It's just the males are the easiest for the time being to show the difference. As in, we'll go into more detail soon. On the top left, you've got a great crested newt male, but you already knew that, didn't you? Because look at its skin compared to the others. It's definitely warty or granular, and that's a big chunky male, so his granular skin is quite obviously warty. You can see his crest flopping over. That's a bridge end animal. He's hauled out of the water for the daytime, just near the pond, and he was underneath a piece of timber, piece of bark. He was underneath. Underneath him on the left is a male smooth newt or common newt. His head, his face patterning, can only be described as stripy. It's definitely stripy, yeah? And if you look at his body, it's got very strong, obvious polka dots on it. That's without looking at crests, bellies, or any of that jazz. Just looking at the markings, he's got a stripy head and polka dots on his body. He hasn't got warty skin. The animal on the right is a male palmate newt. So he's in the same genus as the one on the left, very closely related. His head's not stripy, it's more speckly. Sometimes those speckles are arranged in stripes, but it's speckly, isn't it? Yeah, as opposed to stripy. He's also got, you can see, a low, continuous crest along the center of his back with no undulations or anything on it. And to the near side, you can see a ridge running along the whole length of his body. Now, that's either side of the crest. The crest runs along the line of his spine, and either side of that, there's these ridges that we call dorsolateral ridges. They're either side of it. And the smooth newt doesn't have that, and the great crested newt doesn't have that. Only the palmate newt has that, the male, and it gives it a very square, boxy-backed appearance that the others don't have. You'll see more of that soon, okay? So where you've found your newt depends on how easy it is to tell it apart from others. So when it's in the water, the breeding season, the males, not the females, but the males of all species, they develop something or other. Now, they all develop crests of some kind, and two of the species develop foot adornments of some kind, which you'll look at soon. But when they're on the land, which is when they actually spend the vast majority of their time, contrary to popular belief, when newts on the land, they lose all these features, and so there's far less identification features to go on, and the colors become more subdued and dulled as well. So finding them on the ground is a lot more difficult to tell them apart. So let's get back in the water. Springtime. This is a male smooth newt. Those polka dots all over the body that we looked at earlier. His crest is quite beautiful. It's continuous, uninterrupted, right from just behind his eyes, back of the head, all the way to the very tip of his tail, completely uninterrupted. And it's undulating, isn't it? It's not jagged and it's not straight edged, it's undulating. So an undulating, continuous crest, it can only be a smooth newt. Okay, polka dot like that, that's very obvious. You see underneath the tail, close to cloaca and the rear legs, you can see that little pale blue stripe and an orange stripe. See at both sides of the tail, that's characteristic of a male smooth newt when he's in the water. You can see his tail fin is just developed below the tail as well as above where the crest is. That's to help him when he's in his aquatic stage maneuvering around. And if you look closely at his rear feet, if you look at the digits on the rear feet, they're not webbed, but each digit has a fringe around it. The front feet do not have that on the digits. The rear feet develops this fringe around it, okay? There's the continuous crest undulating. This is a palmate newt, a male palmate newt. Now, he also has a continuous crest, but it's very low and it's straight edged, the least flamboyant of the newts, okay? Look at the end of his tail. You see that naked filament at the end of his tail? That's unique to palmate newts. Look at his rear feet. Look at his front feet. You see the front, he's got naked toes, no appendages, no fringe, sorry, like the smooth newt had on his rear feet. But look at this rear feet of this animal. It doesn't have fringes on the toes. It actually has webbing, okay? So a male palmate newt develops webbing during the breeding season, as well as the crest that you can see, which is noticeably higher on the tail. That naked filament on the tail. Speckledy head that you saw in the previous picture, and you can see that near side dorsolateral ridge, which gives it that boxy square-backed appearance, okay? So male smooth newt, male palmate newt compared. Undulating continuous crest on the smooth, continuous and straight edged on the palmate, webbed feet on the palmate's rear feet, fringes on the toes of the smooth newt's rear feet. Okay, and the naked tail filament at the end of the palmate newt's tail. You can look at those two features there for the palmate. Detail of his webbing on the hind feet and the tail filament. There's the palmate newt's webbed feet on the left compared to the toe fringes of the male smooth newt on the right. You can see that quite clearly. Females, don't even try and tell them apart. It's really, really difficult. You can do it if you get up close and personal. I don't want you to do that. There's lots of different color variation. We're showing you these two because they're very similar, but you can get them almost black and pretty much cream, oranges, tans, olives, everything you can possibly think of in between on both species. Okay, it's very confusing. That's an understatement. Now, this picture was taken a while ago. The guy, whoever it is handling them, this is from the archives. Should have been wearing vinyl gloves. He's not. Should have been. But let's not worry about that this precise moment. Let's look at the underside of these animals. So on the left, you've got orange down the center of the belly, and it's speckled. On the throat, cream opaque skin and speckled. On the right, unspeckled, and it's translucent pink skin. Okay, straw-colored belly. In the middle, orange speckled belly, but the plain throat isn't speckled, so people might think that's a palmate, but it's not translucent skin, it's opaque. It's just an unusual female smooth newt. Okay, so don't go on it hasn't got any speckles on its throat, it must be a palmate newt. That's not enough. You can see there, is the skin opaque or is it pink and translucent? And you can't fail because there's never any change with that at all. Varying degrees of speckledness on the smooth newts compared to hardly any on the palmate newt female as well. Okay, but this is all getting up close and personal, which you really don't need to do. This is a great crested newt male. You knew that anyway, didn't you? Because look at his warty skin. It's a big lump of an animal. His crest is interesting. Regularly confused with smooth newts with their undulating crest. But this isn't undulating, it's jagged and it's not continuous. It doesn't go all the way from just behind his eyes to the tip of his tail. It's interrupted. There's a break above the base of the tail where the rear feet are. Can you see that? There's a dip, a complete break, and then it starts again for the tail, which is generally less jagged. Okay, so it's an interrupted crest. It's not continuous. It's got a break in it. And can you see that white tail flash on the end section, the last third of the tail of the male? Center, you can see it's white, silvery white. That's really distinctive. You can pick it up really quickly on torch surveys at night. You can see that white tail flash. Very distinctive feature, not present in any other species. There's a female from underneath. She doesn't have the crest. You see that yellow patterning on the belly, can be very orange, can be very yellow. That pattern is unique. It's like a fingerprint to us. You don't see two newts with the same pattern. But you'll see the yellow coloration goes all the way the length of her tail. It doesn't happen with adult males. Immature, yes, but adult males do not have that yellow coloration going the full length underneath their tail. This picture makes me grimace a little. This was taken many years ago, also by an ecological consultant. This is the animals are quite unharmed, believe it or not, but this is what they call a squash box. So they hold them in this box in between clear plastic, and that's how they get this photograph. I think it's when they're if somebody's building a Tesco's or something and they need to move hundreds and hundreds of newts, they're recording the individuals and the back patterns like this so that they can and the tummy patterns, sorry, so that they can recognize individuals again with post monitoring after the works. Anyway, let's just look at the opportunity it gives us to tell them apart. So you can see the crest in the male again, interrupted above the rear feet. Yeah, there's a break there. You can see his white tail flash. You can see the female's a slightly bigger animal, slightly longer. That's always the case. Longer abdomen, longer torso. She's got to carry eggs. The male hasn't. Okay. They've both got the warty skin. They've both got that lovely marbled patternization of the belly. But she's got the yellow orange that goes all the way the length underneath the bottom of her tail. Can you see that? And he hasn't. Okay. Yeah, big animals. Actually, the biggest female I've ever seen was 17 centimeters long, bigger than that. Okay. The alpine newt, this is the most commonly found introduced alien species that I told you about earlier. We've got them in Ceredigion. They can be very diverse in appearance because they were imported in big numbers, really popular in pet shops in the 70s, 80s. Imported from various different parts of Europe. So the ones that are here are all jumbled up and mixed up with each other as well. So they can sometimes look different to what they would normally look because of the mix of races, if that's making any sense, where they've been imported and jumbled up. So pretty beautiful animals. The males are blue. They've got a straight edged continuous crest, all these different polka dot patterns. Tend to have a really vivid bright orange or yellow stomach, very rarely with spots, but apparently some populations do have some speckles. I haven't seen it myself. Bottom left is a female. Now she's got that greenish marbled pattern all over her torso. You see that? Okay, so very different to any of our native newts. When people find these, they generally think they're great crested newts because they're so colourful, their bellies, etc. But they're more commonly found all the time. That you see it on the internet, people reporting them all the time, regularly. So it's not great news because of the disease spread. So these aquatic ID features, getting back to the natives, just to go over it again, easy for you to look through the different categories. Does the animal develop a crest? Does it develop foot adornments? Has it got a tail filament? Great crested newt, yes, a crest. Smooth, yes, crest of kind. Yeah, foot adornments, nothing ever for great crested newt. Yes, for those two. Tail filament, no. Nope. Yes, so there you go. Now and again, you might find a smooth newt that's had a tough time or had its tail bitten by a fish or something, and it might have a straggly bit of skin at the end, which you may confuse for a filament. So bear that in mind when you're surveying. Here we've got some animals in a pond dipping tray that after a torch session and survey in a Vale of Glamorgan many years ago. That's a smooth newt male on the left. You can see his undulating crest, and you can see those lovely fringes on the toes of his rear feet. Okay. On the right is a great crested newt male. Can't really make out his crest very well because of the angle, but you can see his toes. They're naked, aren't they? There's no adornments at all on those toes, but you can just see those little stripes as well. Great crested newts look like they're wearing hooped gloves. They've got those yellow hoops on the toes too. Yeah, there you go. And it down for you again. Okay. Great crested newt, much bigger. Okay. They look really dark compared to the other newts, almost black at first glance. Granular skin. In the water, jagged crest that dips. Okay, it's not continuous. Smooth newt, continuous wavy. Okay, you get all this stuff drummed into you. Now, because people say, oh, has it got a crest? And well, all three of them develop a crested type. So has it got an orange belly? All three of them have orange belly of a type. So you have to be more specific, or just hone it down and see, has it got smooth skin or has it got warty skin? But there you go. Speckling on the throat. Great crested newts have dark throats with pale speckling on. Yeah. The smooth newt has a white throat with polka dot speckles on it. And then this palmate newt, you know, it's got that plain pinkish or yellowish throat sometimes. Then look at the feet. The toes for the great crested newt, nothing, but quite a stripy appearance sometimes. Fringes for the smooth newt, webbed for the palmate newt. At the top, the belly color thing, there variations of orange or yellow. Some smooth newts, females, it can be almost scarlet, almost red, but it varies across all of the species. Generally, the brightest and most gaudy looking being the great crested newt, and generally the straw colored, most least attention grabbing is on the palmate newt. Some little photograph examinations and comparisons for you. This is in a pond dipping situation. The animal that's surfacing, so the bottom animal in the picture, but the animal at the top of the water surfacing and taking a gulp, that's a male smooth newt, and you can see he's slightly bigger than the one that's sitting at the bottom of the tank. That's the photograph at the top of the picture, but the bottom of the tank. So the animal that's surfacing for air, he's got that undulating crest on his tail. The animal at the bottom, you can see he's got webbed rear feet and that very square boxed back appearance. Lots of animals in a container. Don't keep them like that for long, please. It would just be lots of big fat great crested newts and no other ones. But you can see the top one that's circled, great crested newt female. Below that, polka dots, smooth newt male, and look at his white throat with the black polka dots compared to the great crested newt above him, which is dark with pale speckles. At the bottom with the red circling, that's a palmate newt, a very little speckling at all on its belly. Bottom right, male smooth newt, toe fringes. Middle animal, you can see it's got webbed feet. That's a palmate newt. The other animal that's disappearing out of picture is a female of some sort. No way to tell. Now, newts enter the water at different times, okay? And the aquatic adornments, like the webbing on this palmate newt male on the left, don't start developing straight away. So you might be looking at an animal that's been in the water for 2 weeks and he'll have well-developed webbing like that animal on the bottom left, or the animal in the middle here hasn't got such good developed webbing, but it's still a palmate newt. Maybe he's only been in the water 2 or 3 days. Maybe he's going to leave in 2 or 3 days and it's starting to reduce. Do you see what I'm saying? But it's still webbing, not fringes. But that one is less obvious than this one on the left. You can see he's got loads of webbing. Okay. Male smooth newt on the right, white throat, black polka dots, polka dot pattern everywhere. You can see that blue and orange at the bottom of his tail to the top right of the picture. And you can see his undulating crest, and you can just make out toe fringes on the rear too. Male smooth newt is the obvious one straight away. You could be forgiven for thinking he's got a tail filament at the end of his tail. He's got a very straggly end to it, okay? But he's got a long, continuous, undulating crest. You can see the blue and the orange at the bottom of his tail. Bottom far right, female great crested newt. Just out of the picture on the left, you can see some toes with stripy yellow sections on it. That's a great crested newt. You saw this one before if you came to the other meetings. You've got a great crested newt female in the middle. Look at the size difference. They're very different animals. Adult male palmate beneath her. Adult male smooth newt up above, top right. You can just see he's got toe fringes on the rear. They're not obvious, but they're there when you compare it with the front toes. Animal bottom left, webbing on the back feet, square backed appearance. Doesn't want to be kept in there for too long with her. He wouldn't touch the side. She would swallow him quite easily if she felt like it. Here's a curved ball for you on the right. So you can't see whether he's got web feet or not. You can't see whether he's got a tail filament, but you know it's a palmate newt male because look at his square back. Look how he's got those dorsolateral ridges either side of his crest. And look at his speckledy head. So all the textbook recommendations, orange belly, crest, web feet, tail filament, you can't see any of those really, but you can pick up on other features like his speckledy head and those dorsolateral ridges. The curveball thing for you is on the left is a female alpine newt, the alien invader, and you can see that green marble pattern she has. Great crested newts on land, hibernating. This is in a cellar, a house cellar, and you can see the two males there have got white tail flashes. It's where they generally hibernate on land, and then they set off to the ponds to breed in early spring. It's different to frogs and toads. Their migration is known, their breeding strategy is explosive. All the frogs and toads at the same time. Newts, it's a more protracted affair over a few weeks. Mild, humid nights, so they're not going to dry out. Okay. They just go in there to feed, mate, and lay eggs. They're in there for a longer amount of time than the frogs and toads, generally. Males might not stay for long. Females, if they're going to lay eggs individually, they have to stay there till they finish laying their eggs. And they're generally crepuscular. That means active at dawn and dusk. And GCN, predominantly nocturnal. Great crested newt by GCN, sorry. Great crested newts move in and out of ponds throughout the season as well. For different reasons, sometimes just to feed in different places. So they're different to the other two species. This varies now greatly what we're looking at here, especially with climate change. And it's far more difficult to be sweeping about activity periods for newts now because conditions are so much milder, so much quicker and for longer. Newts regularly, indeed larvae, regularly overwinter in ponds. Okay. What do they eat? When they're on the land, they tend to be in amongst leaf litter and decaying timber, which is crawling with all kinds of invertebrates that are part of the decomposition process. You've got a long list there for you. When they're in the water, it gets wider for them. They can take tadpoles and stuff as well as aquatic invertebrates. Great crested newts feed differently to the others. They're pelagic. They float around off the bottom of the pond and tend to eat a lot of water fleas. Okay. There you go. That's a water flea. There's a male great crested newt scenting a worm. Okay. You can see his warty skin, can't you? Straight away. And he's just about to grab that worm. Courtship is pretty elaborate compared to frogs and toads, so we just focus on great crested newts, but this is pretty similar for across the board with all of the species. Okay, there's just slight variations in the technique. So the male needs a lecking space where he can display. Okay, and what he does is he quivers his tail, fans and whips his tail, and remember he's got that big deep crest, so he's wafting quite a lot of water about. So he'll bend his tail back on itself so that the tip of its tail is quivering just above the cloaca where he releases pheromones, and he's wafting these pheromones towards the female. He's quivering and then some wax as well, sending real gushes of water, which can be so strong that it can make the female kind of like raise her two legs off the bottom of the pond because it's so much of a gush of water. So he's just wafting pheromones at her, basically trying to get the lynx effect. So female doesn't show much interest until suddenly she picks up the pheromones, and then she has a complete change of attitude and she's very alert, and she just follows him wherever he goes. She touches the tip of his tail with her snout and just follows him wherever he goes. He releases a packet of sperm, a spermatophore, hopefully on top of a leaf or a pebble, something that's easy for her to then follow him a body's distance and pick it up with her cloaca. Sometimes to get the females more interested, the male will broadside her like this animal does. He's literally blocked her way of progress, broadsided, and you can see his tail up above, bending round. He's going to be quivering pheromones towards her. You can see how big she is. She's full of eggs, bursting with eggs. Okay, so he will drop a spermatophore. She'll hopefully pick it up and become fertile. Now, egg laying is a pretty protracted affair. Okay, they could pick up, the female can pick up several spermatophores, so there may be all kinds of genetic diversity going on there. 200 or 300 eggs in a season, one at a time, individually. So it takes some time to lay them all. It's not like frogs and toads depositing the whole string or clump instantly and then leaving the same night. Females have to stay there for a while. I photographed this female great crested newt in the Vale of Glamorgan some years ago under torchlight at night, and you can see her front feet are out, keeping her steady. You can't see her back feet. That's because they're busy wrapping one of the leaves of that plant around an egg as she lays it. Okay, she's carefully wrapping the leaf around the egg. There's a palmate newt female doing the same thing, exactly the same thing, wrapping leaf around the egg as she deposits it. Two great crested newts side by side doing the same thing. Can you see them folding the leaves around their eggs? There's a long list of egg-laying plants there, native stuff. Truth is, they're not that fussy, and they will attach it to a piece of bin liner or a crisp packet if there's not much else available. There's a male palmate newt hassling a female. She's laying eggs and he's still hassling her. Okay, that's what they're like. And you can see his dorsolateral ridge near side, giving him that square box back appearance. Newt eggs wrapped up. Here's one unwrapped to show you. So that's a great crested newt egg. Tell straight away because of the pale coloration compared to the others. So the other eggs there in that picture, they're either smooth or palmate. I couldn't tell you which. It's impossible unless you took them to a laboratory. Why would you want to do that? But you can easily tell the rare protected species apart during surveys from the other common species because it's such a different color. Okay. There you go. Detail on what I just told you. As they're developing, really can be quite beautiful if you've got a magnifying glass. Okay. Much harder to identify the eggs though as they develop. In that initial phase, you can tell them apart much easier. Here's a newly hatched great crested newt larvae. So when they hatch out, they are incredibly small, really hard to spot, very poor swimmers. So they just attach themselves to vegetation or an egg capsule. Yeah. Really difficult to see until June when they get a bit bigger. And it's the forelimbs that develop first, different to frogs and toads. So here they are when they're a bit more advanced. This is probably in the month of June. Okay, great crested newt larvae at the top, smooth newt larvae at the bottom. This is a really good comparison. So at the top, look at the external gills. They're concave. They're quite big and feathery and concave compared to the animal below where they're straight. They're not concave, are they? Look at the toes on the animal at the top. They're really long and spindly, aren't they? Not so with the animal at the bottom. And look at the whole shape of the fin on the animal at the top compared to the animal at the bottom. The finnage on the tail of the animal at the top gives it that hunchback appearance. And that helps it do that suspended in the high in the water column, floating pelagic feeding thing where it grabs water fleas. Whereas the other smooth newt at the bottom, they spend their time crawling through mud, etc. So totally different structure. What I just showed you, much better to look at a picture, but yeah. Curvy gills, really long toes for the great crested newts. Really obvious golden iris for great crested newt larvae too, different to the others. Pictures to show you development, slightly different to frogs and toads, but variation on the same theme. This is some pictures I took. These are great crested newt larvae feeding, pelagic. So you can see he's not at the bottom. He's floating and just suspended there. And he's going to grab whatever floats by. Great if there's no fish present and it's full of Daphnia. Not good if there are fish present. Great crested newts cannot breed where there's fish present. Some more imagery for you to show their development. Here's a very mature great crested newt larvae. He's just starting to recede his gills. Can you see his gills? It's starting to disappear. And there's a great crested newt metamorph, newly emerged. When did it return to the pond? Males take a while to grow up. Females take longer. Okay. Some of the juvenile GCM will come back quicker. Sometimes it might be to feed because they've got a different feeding strategy. And here is one of those individuals. Okay, not fully matured, but it's in the water. Probably scoffing down Daphnia. Here's a little mini quiz for you. So, hasn't got a crest, no foot adornments. It's got to be a female. Obviously, we don't know which one. It's a line drawing, but it's a female newt. Okay. What about this? Yes, jagged crest, discontinuous. There's a break above the tail. Has it got any foot adornments? Nope. Number 2. Yeah, it's got a crest, but it's very low, straight edged, continuous, not interrupted. Foot adornments? Yep. Rear webbing. Tail filament? Yes. That one's ticking all the boxes. Number 3. Has it got a crest? Yes. A wavy edge, uninterrupted, not like the top one. Foot adornments? Yeah, rear toe fringes. So what's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3? Let's have a look. Number 1, great crested newt. Number 2, male palmate newt. And there's his key defining features. Number 3, male smooth newt. That's all well and good in the water. On the land, you don't get those opportunities. Here's a load of smooth newts, various different shapes, sizes, and colors. They're all the same species. There's a great crested newt on the far left and a great crested newt on the far right, but they're not fully grown, they're immature, and they're with some fully grown palmate newts in the terrestrial phase. And you can just make out that the top animal, very top of the picture, that's a male palmate newt. He doesn't have the webbed feet anymore because he's on the land, but you can just see the faintest hint of where the webbing is at the base beneath the toe, between the toes compared to the other animals. Where are they when they're in the land? They can be tucked away in dry stone walls, log piles, that kind of thing. The one on the bottom right, I just lifted the top stone of that wall to show you. There's great crested newts in it. That's Brecon. Less glamorous situation in Kenvig underneath a discarded mattress, sharing habitat with voles. You can see a nest of voles to the right, and you can see the great crested newts to the left, and you can even see the routes that the voles are using to travel, narrowly missing the great crested newts. Terrestrial newts, smooth newt, velvety looking skin, smooth, velvety. Same thing with these guys. Predators, there's a long list of predators for amphibians. Okay, they're on the menu for almost anything. Here's some classic examples. Heron, grass snake. The heron's quaffing down a great crested newt. The grass snake's got an unfortunate male smooth newt there. Here we've got a young great crested newt with one of it. I took this photograph in Bridgend. It's one of its defense displays they do sometimes because they have got mildly toxic skin, and showing off the belly like that is one of their ways to demonstrate that. Sorry about that jump to my dog. This is something I wanted to talk about. This is my old dog. She was a beautiful animal. Passed away a year ago. We miss her very sadly. She used to love splashing around in water at every opportunity. I used to keep her away from ponds. This is a rain-filled ditch on the Gower. Okay, I used to keep her away from ponds. Many dogs love to play in ponds, but it causes absolute havoc for the pond. Okay, there's lots of things that happen. First of all, they just disturb the substrate. So the water always is nearly always brown and muddy and turbid. Not enough light gets through for larvae to develop and for plants to grow. Okay. They also physically damage the plants, and newts' eggs that are attached to the plants, of course. It's pretty disastrous when dogs are regularly visiting ponds. Okay. But the biggest issue is the spray on flea treatments. I think it's called Frontline, isn't it? I never used that with my dog because it's absolutely shocking the effect it can have on aquatic invertebrates when they jump into the water. Research by Bug Life says it for itself. It was really damning. We're trying to get the ethic of people to keep the dogs out of ponds, but we understand it's ruining the dog's walk to an extent. So what we're trying to do on sites is have multiple ponds and have a designated sacrificial dog pond, and the rest of it is left and not disturbed. That's what we're trying to go towards. So please don't, if you're a dog owner, please don't take offense to what I've said. I've been a dog owner in the past. I left my dog, but please try and keep them out of ponds, or join me in the campaign to have sacrificial ponds and wildlife ponds. It's not all doom and gloom. Here's us restoring a pond on the left, and here's one of the great crested newts that benefited. And look at that lovely belly pattern. Like we said earlier, individuals have, there's no two the same. It's like a fingerprint. Have a look at his throat. It's dark with white speckles, not white with black polka dots like a smooth newt. You're experts at identifying newts now. I'm sure you all are. This is a pond that was just been created in Monmouthshire. It's red because of the red clay. A couple of years later, it's full of newts and vegetation. Here's one that's 18 months old, less than 2 years old. You can see how vegetation really takes hold. We don't plant anything. This is on the Gower. It's got 2 species of newt using it. So there's good things happening too. There you go. Any questions you want, fire away.
Oh, thank you, Pete. Very interesting as usual. And yeah, I just wanted to a quick comment before we've got a few questions in the chat already. But yeah, just wanted to say like the message about dogs at the end. Obviously, that's a really important one. Obviously, we all love our dogs. But yeah, it's all about the right messaging and knowing where you shouldn't let your dog go. Right, a couple of questions for you. We had one right at the start, which was a question from last week from Jay Sasha, who pronounced that right. Which is, what is the rough size recommended for a large pond suitable to potentially attract breeding toads? Thank you.
The toads?
Mm.
Toads aren't really pond animals, they're more lake and reservoir animals, and that's, without wanting to go into it in too much detail because we've already done it, that's because toads are unique amongst the amphibians in the UK in that they actually benefit from living alongside fish, because the fish don't eat the tadpoles because the tadpoles have got toxic skin, but the fish do eat the invertebrate predators that predate the toad tadpoles. So that's really rare amongst UK amphibians. The toad's the only species, but for that reason, a toad pond's got to be huge. It's got to be a lake, basically, to be honest. Frogs, total other end of the extreme. But yeah, a toad pond's not really a pond, it's a lake, let's be honest.
Fair enough. There we are. Thank you. Couple of questions from Jane now. First one is, if necessary, what is the best way to handle newts and frogs? Brackets, I was told to wet my hands.
That's better than doing nothing, or get vinyl gloves. Vinyl gloves, they're the ones that are recommended by everybody. It's just as much to prevent disease transfer, but amphibians have got really sensitive skin, porous, damp skin. Our hot, salty skin is very, very uncomfortable for them. So it's a good question. wetting your hands is better than doing nothing. Vinyl gloves is the ideal way.
Perfect, thank you. And then another question from Jane was, do newts lay each egg individually?
Yes.
Thank you. And then another question from Vicky. She says, do you know of any sites that need monitoring for amphibians? Struggling to find suitable ponds and getting permission from landowners with ARC using their 1 kilometre square sites.
Yeah. We've dug over 700 ponds. There's so many ponds that need monitoring following creation. I can't get around them all. So yes, there's plenty of opportunities. You need to be accredited to be able to survey great crested newts, which is easily done. If you aren't already, it's easily done. Bit of training. But yeah, feel free to get in contact. Can get my email from Chloe, or we'll put it on the link. Yeah, just ping me an email. Don't expect me to respond instantly. Today I've been out digging ponds in Merthyr for great crested newts, and it's a really busy time for that at the moment. But I'll speak to you before the survey season starts properly.
Perfect, thank you. We've got a couple of people typing, so there might be a couple more questions coming in. I had a question though, actually, and I was just wondering, I don't know if like you might not know this, but do you know how because you said the great crested newt larvae are like pelagic, do you know how they control their position in the water column? Have they got like I know like fish have swimming bladders, they got something
apparently
similar?
it's because of the shape of that fin that I showed you, the humpback
Okay.
thing. I don't understand it. It's like aerodynamics on aeroplanes and stuff like that. That shape of the fin,
Right,
the way they hold themselves, they're just literally suspended like
interesting.
that.
One more question from Jane. Do newts dig into the ground to hibernate? And if yes, how do they breathe down there?
Amphibians have got really, really porous skin that can diffuse both gases and liquids. So that answers your question, how do they breathe? But they don't really dig in. They've got such weak forelimbs, etc. They just take advantage of. They'll snuggle into leaf litter and wood chip and that kind of stuff, but they're not really diggers like a lizard can kind of stuff. But they're really good at squeezing into tight spots. So decaying logs, that kind of thing. Look like they're digging, I guess. I know a lady who lives in Abergavenny, and she's got a very old house, and the newts are in her cellar hibernating, and they kind of, the closest I've seen him digging, they kind of get into the loose, really humid soil that you've got beneath the flagstones in the cellar. They kind of nestle into that, but they're not really diggers as such. You see them hunting through mud at the bottom of ponds, but that's just to disturb food. They're really curious. They're like investigating cavities, which is why ecologists can catch them in bottle traps. You know, why on earth would they go in there? Because they're so curious to investigate traps. So they're not really diggers as such, but they're really good at squeezing into tight spots. Very good at doing that.
Fab. Question from Bethan. What are the first things you'd recommend doing when starting training for a great crested newt license? No experience at the moment, but very keen.
Give me an email. Attend some training, attend some field training, things like this. Make a log of everything you've done, make a log of attending this, and it all contributes to it. Basically, you need to have 2 referees when you're considered experienced enough, and you just need 2 references. You can't have 2 references from the same organization. So if you came out volunteering with us, and if I was one of your referees, somebody else from ARC couldn't be the second one. You'd have to have somebody else that you went out with as well. And that's how you do it. That's the end result. You just got to get your experience under your belt. And the best way to start is with training. There'll be some field training of some sort somewhere this spring. I know that for a fact. again, I'm putting myself open to be inundated here, but it's quite all right. Just put my email in the chat, please, Chloe.
I've literally just popped it in the chat. So
there we go.
You'll be getting an email from Bethan and Natalie by the looks of it.
Yeah, great.
I think that's it for the questions in the chat. Marie, have you got any? Yeah.
I've only got the one. I just wanted to know whether or not the smooth newts would predate on the palmate or vice versa.
Depends if one's bigger than the other, basically.
Right.
Yes, yeah, it's size thing. Really, there's no differentiation. You know, they're not they're not fussy. They do eat each other, I'm afraid. It doesn't happen so much in the pond when they can avoid each other, but if you put them in a bucket or something, then you get the classic one is great crested newts and great crested newt larvae, mature larvae, just swallowing any other larvae, smooth newt larvae, very, very quickly if they're in the same pond dipping tray, if you don't do something about it. So I learned bitter experience the very first time it happened. But yeah, smooth newts will eat, a big smooth newt will eat a small palmate newt, a big palmate newt will eat a small smooth newt. They're not fussy. Not fussy.
So
I can see a question about refugia. We're gonna have it's so detailed. We're gonna have a session all about reptile surveying, and if you can wait for that, you'll learn all about it. But it's just I couldn't start describing how the best place to put it at the moment. It's just too involved, I'm afraid. You learn all about it if you come to that one, the reptile survey methodology.
Brill. There we are. Oh, there we are. Nice comment there saying thank you so much. I've loved these webinars. Well, you'll have to come. You'll have to come to the one about reptiles as well.
Yeah,
reptile surveys. There we are. I think that's everything. So yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and yeah, please do come along to the rest of them because they have been great so far, and I'm sure they will continue to be great. So yeah, have a lovely evening, everyone. Thanks again, Pete, and see you all next week, hopefully.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.